What's going on, everyone? I'm Rhett.
I'm Philip.
So today we're doing something a little bit different. We're talking about 5 bass lines that we think everyone needs to know, whether you're a bass player, guitar player. All these bass lines have something in common. They're gonna teach you fundamentals when it comes to groove and feel and playing in the pocket.
And these aren't the most famous or the most complicated bass lines. These are bass lines that are just really cleverly, thoughtfully made and will help you be a more well-rounded musician if you take the time to learn them. So I think they're really cool. We're just going to talk about what makes them cool.
Yeah, so I started playing bass as a guitar player about 7 years ago, and immediately when I started playing bass, it made me a better guitar player. It changed my perspective on how I listen to music, how I play with a band. It made me focus a lot more on being part of the rhythm section, what the drums and the bass guitar are doing, and I think that's something that all these bass lines will do for you as a guitar player or another instrumentalist who might be picking up bass for the first time. So we're gonna take a look at these 5 bass lines. Before we do though, go subscribe to Phil's channel linked down below, Philip Conrad on YouTube. He's also got a brand new bass course available, which I'll have linked down there below. And if you wanna support this channel, you can check out my new video course, Fretboard Fundamentals, Chords, and Rhythm. With that out of the way, let's take a look at our first bass line.
I Wish is a monster bass line. It just feels so good with the music. It plays so nicely with the drums. It complements the chords so well. And it's fun to play. It's this steady 8th note groove that just is the perfect part. It's just so fun to play, and the notes are short and punchy. I think that's something about bass playing that's really important, is knowing how long to let a note breathe or ring out. It can make the music feel totally different depending on how long your notes are.
And it interlocks with the drums really well. Like if we listen just... Like the kick drum is good, giving that driving 8th note pattern, but it's that interaction between the bass line and the kick drum that's really driving the whole groove of that song.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the note choice is great and brilliant on its own, but I think something that really sets this one apart is how he plays it, how it's sitting, how they are sitting as a rhythm section. It just feels great. And anytime I hear that bass line, you can't help but tap your foot and want to dance. It's a great one.
This is probably one of, if not my favorite John Mayer songs of all time. And it's all because Pino Palladino and Steve Jordan.
Yeah, they're like master architects of making a song feel good.
Yeah. So what's going on here?
Well, I mean, I think one of my favorite parts of that song is just that verse intro groove, that part that we heard. I mean, the chorus is great too, obviously, but that... Not that complicated, but the way it interlocks with the drums and also the guitar part, those parts all play so nicely together. It's like pieces of a puzzle fitting together, and it creates this sort of hypnotic, great feeling as an intro and a verse of the song.
And the drum groove is so simple on this. It's like the most simple straight ahead part that Steve Jordan could have played. And if it was any more complicated, if there was any more like kick fill or anything else other than that boom, boom going on, it wouldn't groove as hard as it does.
Something you can learn from this is sometimes the perfect bass line isn't necessarily the most impressive or flashy thing. It might just be a thoughtful, simple line that just ties everything together in a creative way.
How do I stop myself from being just a number? How will I hold
It's almost like a heartbeat.
Yeah.
Right? It's those pauses. It makes the chorus feel awesome
Yeah.
when the chorus comes in.
if this is what it takes?
It's a variation of the same rhythm on the chorus.
Then I'll come
But it's still very simple.
like I do when the world keeps testing me, testing me, testing me.
And all of Pino's bass fills, if you can even call them that, are super simple. Like there's no flashy
Yeah.
licks going on. It's just octaves mostly.
Yeah, and just these little sneaky, slidey sort of moments, they tie the song together so nicely. So
other. There's far too many of you die.
This song, I had to learn this song in school. Actually, when Rhett and I went to school together about 10 years ago. When I had to learn this bass line, I feel like more than any other bass line, this one had an impact on and an influence on me as a bass player. Because I feel like it's a masterpiece. The whole thing's a masterpiece. And you can dig as deep as you want to. James Jamerson just weaves this brilliant, thoughtful 16th note line through these chords in a masterful way. You can learn a lot about timing, 16th note variations, and chord tones. It's great. It's so great. I mean, this line. It's so fun to play, and I think the more that you play it and the more you start to notice the little details, you can learn a lot about music from learning this song. And a cool thing too about it is I just did the chromatic run at the end that's actually not in the Marvin Gaye version. There's another version, the Donny Hathaway version of the same song.
The Donny Hathaway live version, which had Willie Weeks on bass.
So another great bass player playing the same song in a different way. Let's check out the way Willie Weeks is playing it. It's a little bouncier.
Right.
A lot more of these syncopations and hits. It's got a little more. Yeah, I love the way Willie Weeks plays it as well, and it's an example of two great bass players playing the same song in a different way. Willie Weeks is a little more. So anyway, I think this line is one that if you take the time to dig into this, I promise you won't regret it. You're going to learn about music. You're going to learn about how chords work together. You're going to learn about how you can use your note duration and your note choice to make the music feel different or feel better.
We were born before the wind, also younger than the sun. Yeah, the bonnie boat was one as we sail into the mystic.
All right, so this one's a little bit out of left field. I don't know that Van Morrison is on many people's like top bass line lists, but this one I think is a perfect one for people to learn, a perfect one to teach you about groove, because to me what I'm hearing is the bass and the kick interlocking super well. The bass is actually the most complicated and the most has the most movement of anything in the whole arrangement.
The song is not complicated. The guitar is just kind of floaty. The drums are just kind of like the ride cymbals just floating along. But this is an example of a bass line, I think, grounding a song and tying it together. And also something really cool about this song is the bass line is actually assisting the songwriter in telling the story. Right? So Van Morrison is a great songwriter, and I think all of us as musicians, I think we should approach the parts that we write and the parts that we play like songwriters, right? If you're working with a songwriter, someone wrote a song, you want to try and come up with a part that's going to make that song feel the way they wanted the song to feel when they wrote it, right? So it's kind of got this like cool, hypnotic, nostalgic, open feeling to it, and the bass line helps complete that feeling in a cool way. I mean, all that is just the root of the chord, and then we're just playing the 5 and the 6 and kind of bouncing back and forth. But when you listen to that song, it's hard not to love it.
Yeah.
It's just a great song. And I think the bass line has a big part of why that song feels so good.
For me, I think this is a really good bass line for people who are new to bass to learn, because it has some movements that are really common that you run into a lot.
Yeah, that root 5 and going between the 5 and the 6, those sort of chord tones and those sort of rhythms. These are not unusual bass patterns, but the way it's executed on this song, it's just super cool. It'd be an easy one to pick up, and it's one that makes the music feel really good.
Yeah.
sitting in the morning sun. I'll be sitting when the evening comes, watching the ships roll in, and then I'll watch them roll away again. Yeah.
For me, this is one of those bass lines you could mute every other track in the song, and I could just hear that bass line and immediately know what it is.
It's super distinctive, and that intro, it's just 2 notes. I mean, that just feels great, and it's cool too because it's not 1/5. He's kind of bending into it, and this. It just has a great feel to it, and the second you hear that, you know the song's about to begin. And I played that song a bunch of times at different wedding gigs and things like that. And when you start that bass line, before the rest of the band comes in, everybody is already smiling and ready to have a good time because everybody loves that song. And the verse is great too. There's some different note durations. Some of these notes are held out and some of them are punchier, and they're kind of locking with that soul feel with the drums. This is a cool song because it's a folk song with a soul band playing it.
Yeah, it really is one of the best bass lines. And this one, like the Van Morrison song, Into the Mystic, I think is another really good one for relatively new bass players to learn. This is one of the first ones I learned because coming from guitar, my main goal with playing bass was I didn't want to sound like a guitar player playing bass. Like it's usually pretty easy to spot. And I think this song, and actually every song on this list we've talked about, will give you some really core fundamentals when it comes to bass playing that will help differentiate you from your main instrument if you're coming from a main instrument like I am and like many people watching this channel are.
Try and get the little details and the nuances of the note duration and the little sort of in-between moments.
Yeah.
And try and really lock with the drummer. And I think these songs are songs that if you take the time to do that, you're going to start to think and feel like a bass player. And it's going to start to tie some things together for you.
So there you go. Those are 5 bass lines that everyone should know. Huge thanks to my friend Philip Conrad for coming on and showing us some of his favorite bass lines. I will have his channel linked down below, as well as his bass course, his bass video course. If you are new to bass playing, worth checking out, right?
I feel good about it.
And also check out Fretboard Fundamentals while you're down there as well. The chords and rhythm course, I think they pair very well together. So thanks again, man.
Thank you.